What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Thegoal60 for Thursday, April the 25th, 2019. Today we've got the Dodgers C-Bet. We pick up a couple unofficial plays, but we also start the testing for the over-under stuff. So it's a lot to get into today with very few games, but a little bit to talk about. So we'll jump into that now. So like I said, we do have the Dodgers playing today. Yesterday they were up 3-0 throughout most of the game. Got all the way to, I believe, the 7th inning and put 2 on and then gave up a homer, where they were still tied 3-3 with 2 outs. Unfortunately, they walked the next 2 batters and then give up another homer. So they go down 6-3. Ended up losing the game 7-6, so they did try to come back there, but just couldn't get it done. We ended up on the wrong side. As far as today, there's only 3 series that are starting up. There's a lot of series that are starting up tomorrow, going in on a 3-game series over the weekend. But as far as today, like I said, there's only 3. There's one that did not make it because of price. It's then the Miami and Philadelphia series, which is .428 for Miami, .501 for Philadelphia. If you look at the price, and the Phillies are minus 200, so way too outside the range for that to even be an unofficial play. The other 2 did become unofficial plays. The first one is the Indians and the Astros. The Indians are at .502, while the Astros are at .570, and in the top 3, they look at the price on the Astros, it is minus 160, so it's just right there along the edge of the parameter, and it would become an unofficial play. Now, the next one, the Texas Rangers and the Seattle Mariners. The Rangers are at .519 on the road, and the Mariners are at .505. So just outside the the parameter for distance away from each other, the 10 or more points difference. You look at the price, and the Mariners are favored here at home. In fact, they're pretty heavily favored, around minus 155 according to where you're looking at. And so you look at the run line for the Rangers, and they're plus 1.5 runs at minus 135. That would be the way you would go if you were thinking about playing that series. So that's the 2 unofficial plays. Now I'll get into a new thing for this season, something that if you watched last season you're familiar with, because we were throwing around some ideas with this last season. And during the off season, I did some changes, and we're going to start testing it today. So I'll get into that in just a second. So this stuff, last season around the All-Star break, David, one of the guys who subscribes and follows and everything, he had been thinking about an over-under version of what we do in chasing, and kind of come up with some ideas. And he found there was a website that does the differential from the over-under for each team that as the days go on. So what I mean by that is, let's say for a game the over-under is 8, and then in the game the actual score ended up being around 7 combined total. So that would be a -1 differential. If they had scored 9, it would be a +1 differential. You take over the course of time, you add those up, get the average per game, and you take that number, add it to their next opponent's average for their games, and whatever that comes up with will give you an idea to go over or under. Last year, around the All-Star break, it was doing very well. But when we jumped on it, we were looking at such a small sample size that had really good results right before the break that it didn't take off like we thought it would. And it gave us kind of a false hope. But then we started thinking about ways to adjust it, because I knew there was something there. There was definitely a nucleus of this could work. This got some power. It's got some grip to it. Let's see what happens if we change some parameters. So I focused on what parameters that I changed last year and bounced those off David, and he gave me a couple more. And then we got to the off season, and I started working on the entire season, looking back and trying to figure out things that would work. And I got to thinking, we were using the entire season as the average. And I thought, why don't, instead of doing that, because teams go up and down, and over the course of a season, it's kind of like watching a stock price. They'll go way up and down. Why don't we look at a closer amount of games, and therefore I just kind of settled on a month. So I said 4 weeks. a lot of times that'll give you somewhere between 22 to 25 games that they played. That gives them time to go through some peaks and valleys of, one day they get shut out, the next day they start hitting the ball like crazy, and vice versa. So that gives us time to balance out of that, give us an overall trend, but also gives you enough data to where it's not, teams like, just for instance, so far this year, the Astros started out the year with 6 straight unders. That really affects their score, but if you look at the past few weeks, they've actually went up and scored a lot more overs, and therefore their average actually came out to .38. So it's a positive number, meaning that they've had more overs or more differential to the over than they have to the under. So I'm going to try to test this. Of course, we'll make adjustments if we need to and go from there. Now, one thing that I'm going to add in there is I was thinking about the parameter of the over-under of when not to take what it's showing. So if it's showing take an over, but then the first game of the series, what's that number that we need to avoid? You don't want to take, let's say, if it's showing over and we're only a couple points above, and then you look at the over-under for the game and it's 12. I'm just making up a number. That would be an unreal high number. A lot of times you don't see it more than 11 and a half. But let's just say for some weird reason in Colorado they got a 12. Now I know they put up a lot of runs, but that's a lot to get to even have a chance. So maybe skip out on that. And then also in the unders, if two teams are showing to be under, but it's just pretty close obviously, and then you get an under that's a 6, which is also rare, but it can happen with Scherzer and a couple others on the mound. Let's say Scherzer versus DeGrom, that total is going. I think we've already seen that once this year, and the total was 6. That's extremely low. And yes, you've got a good shot with those two pitchers, but what if their bullpens blow it up in the second half of the game? So therefore, trying to set those numbers, and right now, looking at the test, I believe if it shows over, don't go over if it's 9.5 or more. Don't go under if it's 6.5 or less. So that gives us a range there to go with. Now, as far as the averages and what we're getting with the differential, you also have to have that parameter. I've been messing around with is if it's 0.6 or below, go under. 0.8 or above, go over. If it's somewhere between 0.61 and 0.79, don't even touch it. That's kind of like the no man's land. They're more of an even roller coaster throughout. So with that said, let's go over the 3 games we got today, and then we'll start showing how that goes as we move on throughout the days. So today we've got the 3-4 game series starting up. Now tomorrow you'll hear me talk about what qualifies as a 3-game series as far as what qualifies for us even to move past that. But on 4-game series, everything goes. Does not matter. So all 4-game series right now in the testing phase look like it would be a play. Now, like I said, this is all a test. So you guys, please don't. I really don't think I'm not going to be putting anything on it because it is a test. Once this thing we get some proven data, hopefully it can do a little better than my other stuff going on right now, and then we can start seeing if it's even valuable to, profitable to put money on in a few months. But right now, let's look at these games. So Miami and Philadelphia. Miami's differential is negative 0.42. Philadelphia is a positive 1.27. That gives us a difference of 0.85. That's over the 0.8. So you look at the over. Today's line is 7.5 minus 110. So therefore, we would say to go over that in this test. So Miami and Philadelphia, watch for the over. Hopefully they can cash quick. Next up is Cleveland and Houston. Cleveland is at 0.17. Houston's at 0.38. That's a total of 0.55. That's obviously under the 0.6. So we're looking to take the under. It's 7.5. So we're expecting, that's right above what we're talking about skipping on, but it's just right in the range what we need. So we are going to play the under there in Cleveland and Houston. So hopefully they can get some of these great pitchers that play for those two teams to actually show up and really play well. Texas and Seattle. is the last one, Texas. This one is way off the chart, and I'm going to keep notes on this because I noticed when I was doing my research over the off season that some of these games where both teams were so high number, that really it wasn't as consistent. I don't know why. I don't know if it's kind of a regression to the mean, bounce back where they are both so high and then the market brings it up a little bit and they actually start playing lower or whatnot, but we'll watch that. So a number like Texas, 1.87, that's way above, that's a full point above what even the parameter is. Then you look at Seattle, they're almost 2 points above at 2.28, so that's a total of 4.15. So you would definitely look at the over 8.5 there, but like I said, we'll keep notes on things like that. That's kind of a weird situation. I'm also taking note of like Miami at negative 0.42 and then Philadelphia's at positive 1.27. So two teams on both ends of the spectrum, kind of as far as one on one side of the parameter, one on the other. See what happens there. So there's several things going on during this test. I just wanted to put it out there for everybody to watch if you're interested in it. If not, it'll always be the second half of the video. So if not, you can go ahead and turn it off at any time. But I just thought, I'm definitely interested in it. Surely somebody else is. So we'll keep up with it, see how it goes. So Miami, Philadelphia over, Cleveland, Houston under, and Texas, Seattle over. Appreciate you watching the video. Have a great Thursday, and I will see you tomorrow morning.
60% of the time, it works every time.